The future is here. An innovation that will change the way the industry works. A Hot 100 chart, updated daily. The most accurate price guide on the market. Every card has its own profile with a wealth of information. Know the precise, real-time value of any card in the system. On demand. You now have the power to unlock the secrets of the hobby. The game changer is here. Card Ladder.
What's up?
Quick on the trigger.
Dude, I was so ready. I was even here for the carbonated crack of the seltzer.
Nice.
What's up, everybody? Putnam, Chef Lizette, I think is the pronunciation. Hello. Christina. Yeah. Sure, I'm flexing my eBay gift cards. I just got a new one today for $100. So if I leave this stream for a few minutes, you know what happened.
Bought a card.
What's up, Wnba? What's up, Basketball Card Collector 93? Well, the chat is a vibrant one tonight. People are ready to go here. I suppose we can. Oh, I have a mail day too. I know you have maybe a few. Did you want to do any mail days?
I didn't get that's on its way.
Okay. I have a mail day that I'll do as everything fills in. No shave, November indeed. Well, we got this right. eBay gift certificate. That's great. Thank you to Christina's mom. And then I got this today in the mail.
Nice.
I've been playing it, slow rolling it. It is indeed Halloween Friday. This is the Michael Jordan 1997-98 Stadium Club. One of a kind. Shout out to Card Boss 713 in the chat. Vic, our first deal. Hopefully not our last. Thank you, man, for the very, very smooth deal. Numbered 58 of 150. Love the photo. Very excited.
That's on the card, man. Those are sick.
Those are cool. Those are really, really cool. Okay, let us begin. Unless there's anything else, we can begin. So, everybody, welcome to the crossover. Today is October 30th. As somebody in the chat astutely noted, it is the Halloween weekend, the Friday Halloween weekend. And many we had a range of questions. We had some good ones, we had some off the wall questions, some are repeats. I think I found a couple of good ones to start with here. This one I enjoyed quite a bit for its candor. It comes from Anything Made at Anything Made. They write, did I go overboard by spending $60,000 on cards and wax in the last 6 months? What do you think?
That was that person's question?
Yes.
Well, hopefully that was at the beginning of that 6 months. Before the COVID jump. No, I mean, everyone's got their own bankroll, right? Their own range. So $60,000 to one person might not be it. If that's like all that person made in a year, then that might be a little excessive.
Yeah, it depends. The answer depends, right? What did you buy? What did you buy? Do you like it?
Wax. I'd be concerned if it's all wax, right? Because it's hard to make money on wax, especially modern stuff. Especially if you're ripping it. So I'd be concerned to hear about it being a lot of wax.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Okay. The next question comes in from the legend of MJ23. He says, "What is the process of prioritizing your next big purchase when there is more than one on the list?"
It's hard to prioritize because like a lot of times the stuff you want is so rare. You just kind of. I know you do this, especially lately. You've done it pretty well. You sort of just wait to see what comes to you. You know, like you got to be a little bit more flexible than having like a straight list, unless your list is 20 to 30 cards, and then the first one that comes up you can jump on it. But you got to be a little bit flexible and be ready to pivot because a lot of times like the stuff that's on your list just won't ever come up, especially if you never be able to time it perfectly with having the right money allocated to it. So you always just got to be ready to pivot. You got to be ready to sell stuff quick. You got to have cards that are liquid just in case. I'd say my advice is to usually just be prepared for kind of anything that might come up. You've been doing this a lot recently.
Yeah. You can't be too in love with your list. To echo what you said, if some of us really like the orderliness of like, this is the first card I want next, this is the next one, this is the next one, this is the next one, but that's a luxury that honestly we probably don't have. What you have to do instead is have a group of cards that you're hunting, and then if a couple of things happen, if the card happens to become available and it's at a reasonable price based on what you think, then make a move on it. And don't force yourself into a corner where you're shackled to your list and your order, but instead just have a group and make moves when they happen. That's definitely been my experience as a more effective way to move around in sports cards. Is if you're just trying to force it and say, I want to get these cards in this order, you might end up making your life a lot more miserable and make the process take a lot longer than it otherwise would. And if you start elongating the process, you might end up paying a lot more for stuff than you would have had to pay for it had you just moved when it was available. So Frankie 3500 says, that's why I have a short list. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I don't know. I have a list of many, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 15 Jordans that, like, if any of them come up and the price makes sense, I'm going to move on it.
Yeah.
This next question comes in from Paulo Pratienza. He says, buy the dip, ! But when is the lowest dip?
Ooh.
What do you have to say to this?
Well, nobody knows the lowest dip. And in fact, I was buying some basketball stuff recently. One card in particular I'm thinking of, I bought a Hollow Lebron 2019. Let me get to this. Okay, so I bought at about $600. So I bought like about a month ago when it was at 600 right here. And I thought maybe that was the bottom, and then that was not. It kept going down, and now it's about $400. So, I bought too early, I guess you could say, and I missed the dip or whatever. I missed the bottom of it. You can't really ever predict the bottom. I would say, like, if you really do believe in it and it keeps going down, you can average down, right, and like buy a couple more and wait for the price to go back up, and averaging down can help you offset the loss of buying too early. But I mean, you can't really ever predict the bottom. You just got to kind of go with what you think and be ready to hold longer than you may have wanted to hold, right? Like if you really think it's going to go back up because of the season's coming back, or something will change. LeBron's usually pretty safe. Like he'll have his ups and downs, but generally he'll go up. So just kind of be patient, right, and wait for it to go back up, and don't like panic sell just because it goes down a little bit more.
So true. And there's the question is focused on the dip, but what about the ceiling? Sure. What if the purpose is to buy at an opportune time with the hopes that this car will become more desired and increase in value down the line, then maybe it's not maybe the correct move from a probability point of view isn't to try and buy at the absolute bottom, but instead is to take opportunities when they present themselves, sort of echoing the answer to the last question, and then just have strong hands and have confidence in your selection and your taste that the card that you picked up is in fact going to have a market increase down the line.
Yeah.
And if and when that does happen, then will it be worth, oh, I could have got it for $100 less, $50 less if I had waited a few weeks. Will that even really be a major consideration? Probably not. I mean, obviously we want to do everything perfectly, right? But like, given the knowledge issue, which is that we really don't know when a dip will occur, it's probably better to also take into consideration what's the ceiling on this card, how high could this card potentially go, and try and, if you're buying at half of what the ceiling is, so what if you miss the dip? I guess that's my take on it.
Yeah, so I was buying it at 600 and the peak was around 870, so I figured like I'm at least kind of safe in that regard, protected against, what the all-time high could potentially be. And also like in general, if you're buying things on the way down, I don't think there's anything too scary about that. Granted, that could be bad if it's like you're buying a guy that's, injured or, his career outlook is looking bleak and, everyone's just sort of dumping with no intention of ever coming back. But in this current dip that we're in on like Luka, Giannis, LeBron, these sort of like MVP caliber guys, buying on the way down is a better idea than buying on the way up, in a lot of regards. But and so buying when things are going down and then being prepared to sell when everyone is freaking out about how excited they are and everything's going up, up, up. That's when you can't be afraid to sell, right? Just the opposite of you can't be afraid to buy right now.
Oh, I totally agree. There's something about having the confidence of experience at your back and letting it guide you, and having, like yourself, having been through 4, 5, 6 cycles, iterations in recent memory of the season, and kind of knowing the ebbs and flows of this stuff, and just having strong hands to persevere and to have faith in our industry and our hobby and collectibles, so that, hey, when there is a correction or even a crash, the technical definition of crash, I think many cards have met that definition. But even when that happens, having the longer term perspective to be able to look at what the value was 6 months ago and sort of understand what the longer term trend is, and understand how seasonal ebbs and flows work, and how hype matters, and how legacies are getting built, and the certain things will bring an oversupply of cards to a market for a period of time, and then those cards will dry up, and ultimately having strong hands and the confidence in sports cards and in the hobby to hold on to your cards even if they do dip, and also to take an advantage and a pleasure and an enjoyment in owning cards even if they don't all go up in value. That's not the end of the world, right? So I don't know, what do you think about some of that?
Yeah, it's good advice. I mean, someone pointed out like we may never see those all-time highs again, and that's totally true. You got to be willing to take that into consideration if you're buying stuff right now and you think like, oh, it's guaranteed to go up. Nothing's guaranteed, right? We could have something happen with the election where things don't go back for a long time and things continue to go down. You got to be prepared in situations, right?
Totally agree, and be prepared for that mentally. And never lose sight of the fundamentals of this hobby and why this market is so strong in the first place, and why people love cards. Just, if you never lose sight of that, and you never lose the sight of the point of this amazing industry and hobby that we're a part of, you can look at everything. You can look at every glass as half full, essentially, and I think that's the right mental space to be in this hobby. So I'm gonna jump ahead. We have several other great questions I put at the top of the list, but I'm gonna jump ahead because the chat is talking WNBA, and we had several questions on that. From Packbreaker came in a question: does WNBA Prism have value? That was a question. And Stork Kyle writes in, Prism WNBA, will this drive collectors into vintage NBA? So the first question is asking, like, is there any value in WNBA Prism? And then the second question is, assumes in its premise that WNBA Prism does have value. And the second question is, will this drive collectors into vintage? So we do have some WNBA. We have Sabrina, I do not know how to say her last name, Ionesco, of Romanian descent, another Eastern European Giants basketball player.
She's only 5'11".
Oh, she seems bigger. Okay. Well, she's really good, and she's the pull in WNBA Prism. The boxes are selling for around $300.
What?
Her base, the WNBA 2020 WNBA Prism boxes and card ladder. Her base Prism Raw is in card ladder. Those are selling for $70 a piece. I saw it had been remarked somewhere that those were selling for more than Zion Raw Prisms were at one point in time. Her silver is in like the $150 to $200 range. And then because like I get a little bit excited by this. I think that she is a kind of an exciting player. I had a saved search for her Prism Gold. Her Prism Gold sold for $2,800 yesterday. So, I mean, look, it's 2 days into a product. I don't even care if you're the hottest football prospect we've ever seen. When you're 2 days into a product, prices tend to dip as supply floods in. And in terms of like driving collectors to vintage WNBA, I didn't even know vintage WNBA existed. So you're really gonna have to pardon my ignorance on that one. But Josh, I wonder if you have any thoughts on this WNBA phenomenon.
People are bored that there's no other product.
Say more about that, because I think that's exactly right. And they're looking for potentially a new product to hype.
Yeah, I guess I'm really confused. Sorry, I must have missed something. I can't believe I'd ever on this show have to tell people I have a wife. I love women. I respect women. I'm not sure that there's just no history to this, right? Like, it's just like the next type thing because there's no other product out right now. That's really what it means. Like when Mosaic prices are going crazy, like box prices on Mosaic, it's because Mosaic was the only game in town. And like Mosaic football right now, people are going nuts over Mosaic football because there's no other football product to get rookies. So like people are just buying what's there. And there's no new basketball product, or hasn't been in a little while. And so I honestly didn't even know WNBA had Prism and stuff. So I respect and admire all people who collect Prism WNBA. Please, if you're looking to make money on it, do not buy it right now, because it's like this is as hype as it's going to be.
I think that's a very real chance that we are seeing the peak right now of WNBA Prism. But man, there's a great meme. Thank God that LaMeme James is back. He has a great meme. I probably sent a screenshot of this meme to several dozen people. The meme simply depicts the Grim Reaper moving from door to door. And he's moving from base Prism basketball to base Prism soccer. And the point of the meme is that, like, we see these new products have a lot of investor excitement surrounding them, and then ultimately they completely plummet. So like a great example that I was looking at the other day is Timo Werner, Timo Werner, Werner. Yeah, if you look at his raw Prism base card, this is a cautionary tale of what can happen. A card can get up to $100, and it can crash all the way back down to less than $5 over a short period of time. This can happen. It has happened cyclically recently, as people sort of fiendishly look for different segments in which to make a quick buck. I don't think that's a healthy approach for long-term collecting and enjoyment of the hobby.
Yeah, it's good to have like your finger on the pulse of new products and stuff, but I almost would say to like try to block out the noise of new products coming out, because you're just gonna get sucked into the hype of it. It's almost like avoid it if you can, because it's just not doing anyone any good. And I'd be shocked if those WNBA cards didn't have this same graph here, and then like Pokemon's gonna have some of these graphs. I haven't checked Pokemon in a little bit, but I'm assuming those are gonna start going down eventually. It's gone so berserk.
Yeah, and the difference, though, is that Pokemon, like Vintage, I think both of those have enduring collector bases that will always provide a level of support.
Sure.
They will not be sucked into the hysteria of 10xing in a month. We've seen enough case studies to know that that is just simply not sustainable, except in the most exceptional of circumstances. But Pokemon and Vintage, I think both have seen meteoric rises. Vintage cooled off but has stabilized, and I think Pokemon will probably do something similar, but who knows. Whereas with WNBA, I think you said something really, really important. There's just not a lot of history that I'm aware of to support the idea that there's like a really robust and enduring collector base for it that will support, box prices at $300. That could change. That could absolutely change. But it's too early to tell. So, depending upon one's risk profile, I think you're definitely getting into risky waters when you're talking WNBA. But I will say the other side of the coin is that Sabrina is a very exciting player.
Yeah.
Watching her highlights was awesome. And look, I was intrigued enough that I created a saved search for her Prism Gold. And I saw it show up for 5,000 OBO. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to make an offer on this? And I was like, nah. I had a moment of self-reflection. And I said, I'm sorry, but this does not seem to be a wise purchase at this time. But I did reflect on it. Okay.
Yeah, so I gave my investor spiel on it, don't buy into the hype, but I would love if we got more female collectors and collectors who actually liked WNBA and it became like a product that stuck around and people enjoyed it. That would be so cool, right? Like just another thing. And if you actually do collect it, just wait like a couple of months and then go back to buying it if that's what you're collecting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's true. And it doesn't take many people to make a market for rare cards. So I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. But well said. There was something appealing about Sabrina's card to me anyway. Christina, do you want to weigh in at all? Is WNBA collectible to you? No. It's just a resounding no. Okay. Let's.
Girl power, but no.
Okay. All right. So, a couple things. Next question is from Adam Lefko, who, for those living under a rock who have not heard his appearance on the Stacking Slabs podcast this week, he and Brett had one of the great hobby conversations. Definitely going to give it a second listen tonight. In fact, I thought it was that good. It was that fun. It's hilarious. Those guys' chemistry is amazing. But Lefko writes in with a very sober, thoughtful question here. And it's a 6-parter. So the question is, which element of the hobby will change the most in the next 10 years? Grading, breaking, card manufacturers, content, marketplace, or valuation? Which of those 6 will change the most?
I think probably grading and manufacturing.
God. So the 2 most technical aspects of the hobby, the 2 most physical aspects that require production processes.
I mean, those are the ones that have the biggest hurdles to get over as someone new. Like trying to find product and trying to grade it. Those are 2 issues that people are having right now. Now I'm optimistic that those will get improved and solved. The marketplace is what it is. We have a lot of secondary market, and it's pretty good. We can communicate with each other outside of all these marketplaces. So there's not really much incentive for companies like eBay to change too much. So I don't know that that's going to be the right answer. What are some of the other ones?
So you said grading and card manufacturers, and then we touched on marketplace. The other 3 were breaking, content, and valuation.
There's just going to be more breaking, right? It's just more and more people are doing breaking. Content creation, I don't know. It's going to get better or worse. I don't know. It'll just kind of keep going.
It's about to get a lot better soon here.
Right. Yeah, I mean, on the whole, I'm not sure the content will change that much.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would love for valuation. That's a fun question, or answer. Will valuation be the thing that changes the most in the very literal sense of like everything becoming increasingly valuable and more scarce. At least the things that we already own, and the things that we don't own but that we want goes in the opposite direction until we get them. That'd be a fun thing to change. But I would tend to agree with you. I honestly, this question overwhelmed me, and I was joking with Lefko when he sent it over. I was like, I can't wait to just hit Josh with this question and just see how he answers it on the fly. And you answered it much better than I did after sitting here thinking about it for a few minutes. I agree. Grading and manufacturing. Those are two production processes. They have, like you said, a lot of room for improvement in both of them. And, they're also maybe the most like institutional parts next to marketplace. And so right. I don't know. I think that answer makes sense, but it's fun to think about. I wonder what people in the chat might weigh in on that as well. What part of the hobby? It can be it can be on this list of 6. It can be anything you want. Which element of the hobby do you think will change the most in the next 10 years? If somebody says something super interesting, maybe we'll highlight it.
Grading and manufacturing are kind of currently held down by like more old school card companies, card people, whereas marketplace is dominated by largely like tech companies and companies that are already a little bit more innovative and like at least know how to wade through some of these issues, whereas these card companies are just now trying to figure it out on the fly because they've never had this sort of demand before.
Yeah, that's super true.
See, Beckett.
I agree, and I get worried. And I wish anybody was listening from these brands to if I plead with you to please preserve and continue to innovate and dominate and control this industry, because it would be disruptive if a new grading company came in and all of a sudden now everything needs to get moved over into a new slab. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. Like we were kind of chatting earlier today about how, man, it kind of seems like, we might be moving our cards into PSA slabs, just kind of the way that things are moving right now. I don't know if maybe you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I don't want to like send people into a panic though, and like a frenzy of like cracking all their BGS slabs, but I am definitely nervous, dude. Like I'm not seeing any innovation from BGS. They're like purposely going slower, it seems, and they're like happy to do so. The things that they've talked about improving are one touches and like sleeves. I'm not seeing it, and like their communication outward is bad. It's like pretty much the OG card company, it is just like the standard of what a old school company is, and I'm just not sure they're ready to innovate along with the times of the hobby growth, and I'm definitely nervous, dude. Honestly, like it's bad. It's really bad, and their website is not changed in forever. We heard a comment from someone that they literally did not know how to check the pop report of BGS. They just gave up. They're like, I don't know how to do it. I'll just assume that it's kind of close to PSA.
Dude, that
even on
was very disturbing.
Card ladder, we can't link to BGS pop report because it requires a login. Like, what in the world is this public information? Make it free. I don't understand. It's just a pop report.
Dude, so many good points there. Look, I buy this. I buy the Beckett Yearly Almanac every year.
Wow.
I love it. I love the Beckett brand. I admire look at Christina's art. I admire Dr. James Beckett's work and his intellectual contributions to the hobby. And I think that guy is a personal hero. And I just love the brand and everything that it's about and it stands for. But, dude, it's extremely concerning that some of the things that made them, at one point in time, my favorite grading company, which was subgrades and guaranteed turnaround times, and as well as really nice looking slabs too. I think their slabs look great, but and the thickness of the slabs is really nice too. But now the guaranteed turnaround times have gone away, and now that they've like incentivized people to not buy subgrades because they make it much cheaper, especially on a big quantity basis, to grade cards without subgrades. And now like more and more modern stuff is receiving BGS slabs that don't have subgrades.
Right.
It's sad. I don't like that direction that they're headed in. I think they should go in the other direction. I saw a great opportunity for them to become the slab of the premier elite cards when they remained the only company that was doing guaranteed turnaround times, and they were not doing upcharges. But they did have there is a premium for the quicker service. I said, this is a great opportunity for Beckett to become the place where people want to send their high-end cards to grade, because literally they'll save thousands of dollars relative to the upcharge that is incoming from PSA for grading high-end cards with them, and they have a guaranteed turnaround time. So I was like, man, I thought there was a great opportunity. And look, I'm still buying Beckett slabs. This is a Beckett slab I just received in the mail today.
Yeah,
But
you're not grading with BGS.
I'm not, man. I'm not. It's like I have those 2 McCaffrey 1-of-1s that I ordinarily would have sent to BGS because I would have done it on 2-day. I would have paid the little extra money, and I just would have got it. I'm sending them to PSA now, and I'm going to wait 4 to 6 months for those to complete in my next bulk submission. Just because like the advantages that once existed for BGS just don't feel as prevalent anymore. But I'm not ruling them out. I'm not saying that it's over for them. And one of the things that Brett and Lefko talked about on their podcast, Lefko said he was showing BGS slabs to athletes and as well as PSA slabs, and he asked them which cards look the best to you, and consistently people picked out the BGS slabs. They look nice, just on a really basic level. They look really nice. So I'm not saying this is a curtain call or anything for anybody. There's still plenty of time and space for people to innovate and advance and things to change. But I'm with you, man. I would love to see something that could really make me rally behind BGS once more.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, like I used to grade a lot. I used to grade a lot with PSA. I graded with BGS. Like this time last year, well, I guess earlier because of the off-season timing is all off. But last off-season for basketball, I was buying mostly raw and grading because I saw higher ROI and like better flips. And same for this football off-season. But I got to be honest, man, this season I bought all graded. Like I didn't buy a single raw basketball card. I just don't see I'm not seeing enough ROI anymore. I'm getting upcharged. The turnaround time doesn't make sense for the cyclical nature of the timing. Like none of it adds up for me as a buyer anymore and like a customer of PSA. I'm not sensing that I'm being like treated as a customer with either company, to be quite honest with you. Like I feel like there's charging me more money. I don't know when I'm getting it back. There's no communication. It just all kind of stinks. And it feels like there just needs to be a big like some big changes in grading. I think PSA is doing a little bit better enough, I guess, but like I sent a huge crossover order. I spent like $1,500 to cross over like 6 cards, which is ridiculous. Like that's the stupidest cost. And I got 1 card crossed over and the value went up on like 500. So I basically just like burned $1,000 for no reason. And I'm not bitching. I didn't get the grade. I don't want to bitch about not getting the grade I deserved. I guess it's more about like charge me if it does cross kind of thing. I don't know.
Dude, viewer, friend of collector, I don't know what the term is, card porn, adds card porn, had a question on this topic. Or more of a suggestion. He said, trying to get a crossover bump in a slab, it is a waste of damn time, but they keep taking your money.
It sucks. I'm sending like 9.95 quad 9.5 plus, like it'll have 10 corners. It's like, now I know you're just being assholes. Come on, like you guys are big on corners and everything else is close. It's just like you're allowed to have a little wiggle room. PSA says they're allowed to have a little wiggle room. Still get a 10. So you got that with a few 9.5s, 10 corners. You guys are big on corners. I don't understand how this isn't a PSA 10, but I'm not a grader. That's not my job. So I just gotta eat it, I guess. And frankly, we're just going to have a bigger premium on already graded cards, to be honest, because people just don't want to mess with this anymore, and I don't blame them. It's not a fun process. Like every new person that comes into the hobby is like, how do I grade? And I just don't know what to tell them. I shoulder them, like give them the Jordan shoulder shrug. It's like, find a sub guy and like pray, I guess. I don't know what to tell you.
Dude, great friend of mine going on 20 years, who's in that Rockford, Illinois area, and we've reconnected since we came back. He dug up some amazing Kobe rookie cards that he and his dad had collected when he was a kid, And he asked me months ago, hey, how do I grade? And I was like, well, PSA is probably going to be the way to go here. He did all of he made a thorough spreadsheet. He put all the cards in card saver ones. He did everything he was supposed to do. He went to PSA's website, and he was just not only overwhelmed, but very confused because the cards came in different service levels. So he was like, I think I have to send 3 different packages for the different service levels. I'm not sure, though. I'm nervous already about mailing expensive items. Obviously, like, people who are not regularly doing deals are going to feel some anxiety about that. And he was like, honestly, I just put the cards back away because the process was just very discouraging and overwhelming and was giving me anxiety. And I was like, dude, don't worry. Get together with me. I'll include your cards in my next group sub. Like, we'll get this done. That outside of like knowing people who know about group subs, and you turned me on to my first group sub. So like, I'm going through the same thing that other people have gone through. Like, outside of that, it is a mountain to climb to try and navigate grading.
Yeah, and it's like if one of these companies just up their customer service and their barrier to entry, they would just crush it. It's like, this is why these big tech companies are dominating the world in terms of finances, and why these tech companies have all the money is because they've figured out the best way to make things easy for people, and convenience is really what people pay for. So like, if one grading company, had a service that was like, send us your cards, we'll be the ones to review the service level, don't worry about that. Like, here's, just put it in this sort of box and we'll do the rest for you. Don't worry about turnaround times. Like, it's going to be fast. We have the right people in place, and it's professional, and our customer service has nice chats online, and our user interface is easy to submit the cards. You take a picture of it and we automatically tell you what it is, and it uploads it, and you just send it off. We pre-send you the label, like Google does that. When you trade in your phone, they pre-send you the shipping label, stuff like that. There's all these different things they could do, and it's like, I don't know. They just seem like kind of old school, and it's frustrating.
I totally agree. That is a terrific idea and a nice little reward for anybody. I know we have different industry veterans who listen to the show. Sometimes they reach out to me. That's a terrific gem that you just gave, is, hey, if somebody were to step up, maybe provide a slight premium service, although I don't think you would need to add that much of a premium onto the price, and say, basically, send us your cards and we'll do the rest. And here's a guide of what should be sent and what shouldn't.
Or you could send a box with card savers, sleeves, instructions, and the prepaid shipping label to the company, and then have it filled out for you or something. Like, you go online and you take pictures of your cards, and then they send you a box with the sleeves and the card savers and the packaging, and here, just put your cards in these things, send it back to us. Here's what it's going to cost. Thank you.
I mean, that's a terrific idea. That's a gem that was just dropped there for anybody who wants it. Now, it's so funny because, dude, I honestly, I could not agree with you more that, like, I would so much rather be buying graded. I definitely do not buy raw, but if I can maybe I'll just show something here. I know you said you saw these piles the other day. It was just giving you anxiety just looking at them.
Oh, no.
Like, dude, this is just, I have literally, oh my God, just cards just falling everywhere. I have probably 700 cards that I ultimately am getting ready to grade right now, which is just perfect. That's just my timing, is that I would send stuff to grade when it just doesn't make sense at all to do it. And it's just going out of style, but so many cards to grade right now.
Look at this. There's all the cards. There we go.
Oh, there's some.
Oh my God, that looks so nice, John. I'm so jealous. I have to sit with my back facing this table of cards.
I can see the table. There it is. This is the actual base. This is the real table.
Yeah. Nice. Congrats on being able to see your table.
But I mean, it's sick though. You got a lot of cards though. You got a lot of money there.
Yeah. So it's going to require a terrific outlay of capital to grade them all. Not to mention the time. It
Mental
takes me like 2 minutes per card, honestly, to like get all the dust off it and sleeve it and look at it and see if it's even worth grading.
The mental capacity is dude, it's stressful. I have cards in the pile that I want to try to cross, and I'm like, do I crack them? Like, I'm just like paralyzed by my own fear.
Oh, I feel that so deeply as well. Like I will be going through cards. Like Christy and I have 2 complete sets of 2018 Prism Pink Ice. The LeBron from that set, the Trey from that set. There's like 30 to 40 cards in each of those sets that are definitely worth grading. But I get so much anxiety, especially when I get to the fringe ones where I'm like, okay, a PSA 10 of this sold for $40. Should I grade this? Should I not? And then if I decide like, okay, yeah, I'm going to grade Dante DiVincenzo, then I'm like, that means I need to go get my Prism base DiVincenzos too, because I have like 10 of those, and like those need to be graded as well because those are worth $40 too. Like otherwise it's not intellectually consistent for me to grade one that's worth 40 and not the other. And I just get so stressed, and then I actually get happy when I see a card is not worth grading. I get very happy, and I'm like, okay, good. This one just stays in its freaking box or in its binder.
Adam Lefko says this is an ad for card ladder interns.
Yeah. That's probably true.
Maybe move on. I'm too anxious now. Go to something.
Sorry about that. I know it's just infectious.
Ask about like LeBron prices going up forever. That'll make me feel better.
Well, so Rodman did have that question very much earlier in the chat. He said, "Are there any rare LeBron cards that are going down in value?" Not only is the answer to that question no. We just had a LeBron set a record high yesterday. The Black Refractor PSA 9 sold for I think $36,000. So and it's not just that card. There's especially like the Topps Chrome stuff, the golds, the parallels are doing extremely well for LeBron. And what's amazing about it, and what's definitely making me nervous on a different level, is like I have to rethink the methodology of predictive pricing, because base cards have not been moving in the same direction as rare cards, which bucks historical trend. But it also like means like, okay, well, all of our predicted prices, especially on rare LeBron stuff, are undershooting the mark because the rare stuff is just appreciating much faster than base cards are now. So,
I mean, that's why you take multiple snapshots of those multipliers, right? Like you don't just do the last one and you try to get like 6 or 7 to sort of make it more accurate.
No, and that's exactly right. And so sometimes that can actually like help clear up why sometimes there will be quite a variance in historical multipliers over time. So you do try to average them. And, it's also, let us not, be, I don't feel like totally dismissing the logic of historically correlated multipliers either, because perhaps some stuff is just selling really strong right now, and that trend, and all that means that maybe the base is going to catch up soon or something like that. And the logic of multipliers has been pretty reliably durable. It started with the multipliers that Beckett used. I think multipliers have always sort of been a way that people think about the hobby, sometimes explicitly, other times implicitly, but it's definitely, I think, a logic that's here to stay. But make no mistake about it, some of these extremely rare parallels are just outpacing everything else right now, and it's not even close. So like it is what it is. But I thank Rodman for that comment.
Someone said his cards are going down when people realize he killed the popularity of the NBA. Isn't the NBA like the most popular sport? What?
Yeah, I don't
The NBA
think so.
becoming more properly globally. Like that makes no sense.
No, the NBA's global impact is just tremendous. And
I want to point out that like people keep pointing to TV ratings. Dude, TV ratings of fucking every sport are going way down. Like you can't just point to basketball because you're mad about that you don't agree with Black Lives Matter. Like get over it. It's every sport, and it's not just because of that. There's a lot more factors. It has a lot to do with COVID. It has more to do with people consuming these sports in different manners. Like the YouTube consumption of NBA is like at all-time high, and it keeps growing and growing. So like, do a little bit more homework before you just blindly get angry about these social movements and like put blame on LeBron and these different players, and like do some more research before you start saying stuff like that.
Yeah, let me reinforce that with a couple of data points that I happen to have on the top of mind. The first one is that Adam Silver recently pointed to, and of course he's going to do this, he's the commissioner of the league, but he pointed to that online streaming more than compensated for the decrease in cable television viewership ratings with respect to the NBA as compared to last year. So so there actually was no reduction in popularity if you look at alternative sources such as cable TV, which includes online streaming.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, though, is that we had an unprecedented moment when so many national major sports, NHL, MLB, NFL, and NBA, were all sort of happening at the same time. That was unprecedented. Several of them in playoffs or in key moments. And it was not any singular sport that received a decrease in viewership. They all did. Even the NFL was down like 10%. And the NFL, as we know, is from a spectator point of view, is our most popular sport and very resilient. So they all sort of took away from each other. There was a great, thoughtful post by Tyler Cowan, who's an economist and a slightly controversial one, but he had a great post on this topic, a blog on NBA TV ratings. If you'd probably just Google Tyler Cowan NBA TV ratings, you could get to it, and they dig into the data a little bit more carefully. So it's thoughtful to think about. If you want to dig more deeply into that, anybody in the chat, that's there. Rodman raised another, if we're ready to move on from that one, Rodman raised another topic that was very interesting. And a couple of people talked about this. You know, we should talk about this because the election is on Tuesday, I think, right? Christina, is that right?
What?
The election is Tuesday, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Christina was
totally
daydreaming.
paying attention to you.
Yeah, so the election is Tuesday, and so people are thinking, what happens if the political party is in power, stays in power? What happens if there's a shift in political power? What happens if there's a split in political power and one house goes to one party, maybe the presidency and the other house or and the Senate goes to a different party? What happens if there's like some splits? How is this ultimately going to play out? And, you know, we care about how it impacts cards too. Not to take anything away from all the political ramifications of it. This is a sports card show, so we're just going to talk about cards. So one thought that I had today, and I started sort of discussing this with Frankie 3500, the great legendary Frankie. I said, dude, what happens if we have a change in power that results in a dip in our financial markets? What happens if investors lose faith in the stock market and we have, you know, maybe not a crash, but, you know, a kind of a COVID light moments where our financial markets lose some of their optimism and they go into bear mode? Well, there are some historical precedents to suggest that in that type of situation, sports cards and other quote unquote alternative assets, I don't love that phrase, but I'll just use it as shorthand for now. Some of those categories do well in moments when people get less confident in traditional markets and they want to move into something else. And so I mentioned that to Frankie. He said, that's an interesting point. That does happen. And then he went on a whole tangent about the possibility of like black markets arising as collectibles become more important. But I wonder what you think about that. Like, you know, should we be worried that a downturn in financial markets will correlate to a downturn in sports cards? Like, is that freezing you at all? And it doesn't seem to be. It's definitely not freezing me. I'm making lots of moves in sports cards during this oddly timed NBA offseason. I wonder what you think about some of those topics.
Well, I kind of think about it this way. Whenever I think about the sports card market, and especially like the rare high-end sports card market that I'm most interested, whenever I think about that going down, I get excited. So, and I think a lot of people, a lot of collectors feel that same way, and they're just like, please go down so I can finally get that card. And because of that, it never actually does quite go down to the effect of like a stock market, right? Where the market is 100% driven by financial gain, and then the sports card market is driven by financial gain and, you know, the hobby, the collecting, the fun, everything that comes along with it. So because of that, I just have always felt like cards and sports cards and like nostalgic things and Pokemon cards and, you know, video games and all these different things that are popping up that people are collecting is just because people love them and like they want them to go down so they can buy them because they genuinely like it. And, you know, it's the same, it's like the quote last week, right? So I just think if it does go down, then embrace it and, finally buy that rare card you've been looking for and stop complaining about prices. We had all these complaints about prices going too high, and then people are going to complain when prices go down. So it's like, well, just adjust, right? If it goes down, adjust your collection, adjust your goals, maybe put more money into different things and less money into cards if you're worried about it. You just got to adjust to all these different factors. And we've been complaining about grading, but like I've just adjusted to grading changing, right? I've bought more graded cards. I've gone back to focusing on like high-end Lebron cards versus trying to like grade and flip stuff because it just like it isn't there for me as much as it used to be. So I've just like switched, and I think it's just all these different things. Everything's always going to be changing, so you just always got to kind of pivot and figure out what's the next move, right?
I freaking love that. I just love how you are never like stuck in a mode of operation. If grading raw cards and buying raw cards just isn't syncing up with what you're trying to do at the moment, or just doesn't make sense to you right now, you just go to the next thing. You just pivot to the next thing. That fluidity is commendable, not only in the area of sports cards, but life in general. And you also said something that you referred to the quote from last week. Let me recite the quote, and maybe I can get it exactly right this week. People don't like cards because they're good investments. They're good investments because people like cards. Did I do it good? Okay. I just love that quote. I just freaking love that quote. Perhaps that quote will be emblazoned on my tombstone one day with, of course, proper credit to its author. But that quote just tells the story of the hobby in so many ways. So well said. I did have to write it down to get it right again, but
you know how you and I sort of talk sometimes privately about how when things get tough in the industry or roadblocks get put in front of us for card ladder, we actually get excited about those roadblocks because we know that the competition or other people trying to, do the same thing we're doing in the industry have to go through those roadblocks just as well. And you and I are better equipped to go through roadblocks. So we actually welcome them. And I kind of apply that to this scenario where when roadblocks get put up, COVID and, the industry going down, the prices going down, grading getting harder. These things could potentially be good for you. And I think about Warren Buffett saying, when everyone else is panicking, that's when you should be most excited because everyone's panicking and making bad decisions. It's going to be easier for the person who's more prepared. When everyone's freaking out, prices are going down, shit's hitting the fan, that's the best time, really, because now it's like the best opportunity for you to capitalize because you're not panicking and you're actually like staying level-headed and making better decisions than everyone else. So it's like when everything's going great, it's harder because everyone's winning and you can't outmaneuver when everyone's winning, but you can outmaneuver when everyone's freaking out.
Oh my God, I love that. There's so many jewels in there. Maybe Hawaii guy will make a 2-minute clip out of that one too because it's excellent. Cheers to the seltzer for the inspiration, I suppose. All right, so the great Jeremy of Sports Cards Live said, can we hear the quote one more time? Yes, you may. People don't like cards because they're good investments. They're good investments because people like cards. And as the chat said, as Addison23 said, the card father has spoken. That's you, Josh, through this great quote. Okay, now to dovetail off of what you just said, okay, something very interesting happened in sports cards yesterday. It was the total sales of the 4,500, approximately, that's the number of cards we're trading in Card Ladder. Of those 4,500 cards, $1.5 million worth of them sold yesterday. $1.5 million. That's the 5th highest selling day in Card Ladder history. And what's really amazing about it is that this was not like a PWCC round 1 auction or anything. It was the closing of a PWCC round 2. So obviously those are always going to be inflated days in terms of value because so many big cards sell on those days. But nonetheless, it was the 5th highest day. And what's noteworthy is that there wasn't any like $500,000 card that sold yesterday. It was just volume, man. It was just volume. It was so many cards and so many nice cards sold yesterday. And then we were kind of talking about, hey, look, people were upset that prices got too high, and then people were upset that prices got too low. people,
Right.
I guess the lesson that we always learn over and over again is that people will always be upset no matter what the situation is. So
Right.
what we have here in this moment was there was a buying window during the last month. And then we had some, and I hope everybody made their moves. I know Josh and I made quite a few moves, and we literally told you guys what we were doing during that time. Boom.
Moves.
Boom. Moves. Okay? Moves. So Conrad Sports Cards wrote in and he said, what will the upcoming bull market look like before the 2020-21 NBA season? I think it's a little premature to talk about that still because the earliest hypothetical start date is a little under 2 months away, which is still quite a while. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on that. What do you think the upcoming bull market will look like before the 2021 NBA season?
Well, I would expect the young guys to go up. We're seeing it creep up a little bit on some of the guys like Giannis and Luka. So I would expect some of those guys. Like I think Luka is just gonna have so much hype going into the season. There's gonna be MVP talk, and people are just like they're gonna have the memories of how it ended for him, and just how amazing he was at the end of that playoff series against the Clippers with that buzzer beater, and just there's like almost like nostalgia already for Luka, and people are just. He's just like the next collectible guy, right? Like he's a superstar. So we'll see upticks on some of those guys, and I would expect some of these other young guys like MPJ and Tyler Hero to get some more love, and people excited about their next step up. And I'd expect LeBron to have a step up coming off the championship, and Davis, and I don't know, like prices went down. I was like so excited, like yes, prices go down so I can buy some stuff. Like I wasn't able to buy as much rare stuff at discount like we talked about, but some of the more common stuff that had these crazy peaks and then just went down. It's like, man, that's the stuff I've been buying because like I just don't see how it can't go up a little bit at least. It seems like it's a pretty, I don't want to say safe bet because nothing's safe with the election and stuff, but with the season coming up, people will get excited.
Yeah, they will. And okay. So people are talking about the run-up in value prior to the season. Now, we know that the sports are all different. And the Wharf Sports Cards had a really thoughtful post on this topic a few weeks ago. I learned quite a bit just from reading it and some of his insights that he supported with data. But the observation was that like probably the best time to buy NFL the best time, the peak of NFL prices is preseason. That's probably a good time to sell NFL.
Totally.
There will be a few people like Aaron Rodgers who were like underrated going into this season because, last season ended kind of abysmally for them, even though they did make it to their conference finals. But, and then this year he sort of overperformed. They were worried. They brought in Jordan Love as the backup to him. They didn't think his chemistry with the coach was that great, but all of a sudden he still has the best QBR in football. It's like he was like one of the few who kind of like went up during the season. Josh Allen, same thing, again, because he seemed to have been underrated going into the season, and then all of a sudden he starts performing really well. So like in Russell Wilson as well. But for the most part, even guys like Kyler, who like have been playing very, very well, they saw what I still think their all-time highs were set during the preseason.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so when I think about basketball, right, and like we have Lukas. We definitely have Lukas. And I look at the opportunity maybe to send some of those to PWCC for their December auction, which should be ending right as the season's starting. And the gamble there, obviously. Now, to be sure, I've sold Lukas too early twice. Going into the bubble, I sold them in June. I should have held it for longer. And then going into the 2018-19 NBA season, I sold stuff going into the 2019-20 season, I sold stuff right before that season too early as well. But yet, I think I'm going to try for the third time, maybe the third time's a charm here, and sell some stuff, some Lukas stuff. Everything that's not essential to the PC might have to be on the block going into this season, just because, like you pointed out, the hype for Luka going into last season was not that crazy. Nobody expected what happened, and then he sort of had like a Josh Allen thing, where like he came out the gate, and in November he was phenomenal. He was Western Conference Player of the Month. Okay, so like that, he will not surprise anybody this year. What do you think about that? When do you think we might see NBA prices peak preseason?
No, because that's like Christmas time, and like for basketball, we usually see it like here, it like kind of jumps up a little bit like early in the season. This is November of last year, and then it dipped going into the holidays. It went down quite a bit through the holidays, kind of stayed flat through February, and then started going up in March. So I think like after football season ends too. Basketball's different, right? Like football, I can see why the peaks are in preseason because that's when like teams and people associated with their team are most excited. So there's just like hype in general because everyone has an equal shot. Whereas basketball, it's like a more of a slow build through the season as we kind of get used to who's going to be the top players in the year, who's like establishing themselves in the MVP race, and we don't have as many injuries, so it's kind of more just like a slow build through the season, and we get through the holidays where people are spending money on other things. So even like if basketball prices don't go up at the start of the season, I'm still not going to be concerned because football will end in February, and then we'll start to see more attention coming towards basketball. Like you can see the growth here after February, after Super Bowl here. Luka sees a big bump up, and then he starts like the slow rise of COVID and then coming back down after the season. So I don't know. I'm not going to overreact either way, but in general, if the season starts in the holidays, I wouldn't be worried if the prices didn't go up at that point because of the holidays.
Oh, that's such a good observation. There are several variables that matter quite a bit, and one of them is holiday spending competing with card spending. Hugely important observation you just made there. And that's what's really amazing and fascinating because like obviously we have a lot of new people in the hobby right now, and they're going to look to learn lessons from experience. And I don't know that what we're about to learn right now is ever going to be applicable again, because I don't think we'll ever see this set of circumstances again. So it's
right.
It's really unfortunate for people trying to navigate this thing for the first time. And like I think what you said is so important and really, really needs to like be remembered. Like you have to look at the basic fundamental factors that are influencing prices, competing with other sports, holiday seasons, stuff like that. Super important.
It's also hard to track these all-time trends through the seasons because these graphs all just like in general, like if you start from 2018 to today, everything is just up so much because it's just like from 2018, 2017 and before to today, just like the overall market is just up so much that it all is just sort of like really tough to navigate these trends through the years because the blips, 5 years ago were so much smaller than they are today, where everything is just like huge upswings and these giant falls, and it's crazy.
Yeah, and that is why we, let people switch over to logarithmics, and then you can at least measure performance based on rate of change. And so then it kind of, but all it does there is just makes everything look small. So, but at least now you see that like if you measure it by rate of change, the change percentages are very consistent. But it just so happens that when a card goes from $500 to $1,000, is a substantially different absolute value change from when a card, say, goes from 50 to 100.
Just that all like LeBron and Jordan graphs look like this, where it's like steady as she goes, up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wayne Gretzky is in that category of cards. Yeah. Mike Trout is in that category of cards. Brady is in that, although Brady has ebbs and flows that correspond to Super Bowl wins, but he's definitely in that category as well. Yeah, I mean,
Brady stuff is on fire.
Yeah,
his tickets are doing. His ticket card is just his playoff ticket card is insane right now.
Yeah, it is. I was looking at that card. A BGS 9 sold yesterday for not an all-time high, but it sold for like $36K. Jeez. And I was looking at that card and I was like, man, I would like a BGS 9 of that card. But I was like, but damn, there's the numbered one. That's the one I really want. I would take a lower grade of a numbered one over B. And I just was like, what am I doing? I'm out of my comfort zone again. $36,000,
it popped 247. Man, I mean, it's like if you want to collect Brady, that's what you buy. But look, if we speak again, like Brady's stuff peaked in preseason, even on that one, and it's come down, and he's been playing MVP level. So Worf has definitely a great point about football there.
He does. He really, really does. And so the flip side of it again is that, so if football prices naturally come down during the season, Obviously we don't want to overpay for anything, but it that's a good time if you have the discipline to understand your collector sensibilities and say, hey, maybe it's not quite as exciting to like buy a player on the way down, but like, hey, I collect this player. I'd love to add a nice piece to the PC. I was hoping that I added a McCaffrey 1-of-1 rookie auto to the PC this week. It was supposed to be here today. It didn't get here today. But I experienced that dilemma where I was like, man, McCaffrey cards are like half of what they were preseason. So it's not quite as exciting to collect the guy. He also hasn't played in weeks, but it was like, you know what, though? I have a long-term PC of this guy. This is a terrific opportunity. I want a 1-of-1 autograph rookie card of his. It's a PSA 10. And, dude, I was able to get it for pretty close to the price of his Prism Silver or his Prism base. It's the same thing for that year Prism PSA 10. So, like, you look for opportunities, and it works both ways. So if stuff is at its high in the preseason and it's lower during the season, it's a buying opportunity. And then you just have to be patient. Also, something I found with football, when you only have one game a week, the energy just isn't quite the same as a collector as when you're watching a player in the NBA play every other night.
Yeah.
The future is here. An innovation that will change the way the industry works. A Hot 100 chart, updated daily. The most accurate price guide on the market. Every card has its own profile with a wealth of information. Know the precise, real-time value of any card in the system. On demand. You now have the power to unlock the secrets of the hobby. The game changer is here.